Welcome to the CE Pro podcast. I'm Executive Editor Arlen Schweiger. It seems like forever that low voltage integrators have grappled with whether or not they should add line voltage electrical services. A growing number of integrators have done just that in recent years. Now, with the proliferation of electric vehicles, the high cost of energy, and the increasing alternative energy options from wind power to solar power, there's a need for homeowners to intelligently control their electrical usage. Savant Power is making the case for integrators to become the go-to contractors for managing intelligent power solutions, and company president Anna Demeo spoke with CE Pro's Jason Knott about this exciting new opportunity. As always, be sure to subscribe to CE Pro's YouTube channel and hit that like button on our videos, or subscribe to the CE Pro podcast on Apple and Spotify and leave a review.
Hi, Jason Knott with CE Pro, and today I am talking about intelligent power management with Anna Demeo, president of Savant Power. Hi, Anna.
Hi, good to be here.
Thanks for joining me today. Can you describe for our readers, obviously know Savant very, very well, but describe exactly what it is that the Racepoint Energy, or now Savant Power intelligent, smart, intelligent energy management system does?
Sure. So we can think of our product in sort of two major buckets, right? So one is our smart electrical panel. So we all have electrical panels in our homes or businesses, and they're pretty much the same as they always been, right? Right? Not much has changed in that industry. And what Savant Power brings to this is really bringing that electrical panel into the 21st century and making it intelligent. And what that means is that we can now monitor in real time, revenue grade all of the energy in a home or business, and then control that in real time. And that control has a lot of value, right? It has value around making sure that we can keep a home or a business functioning at its most optimum, right? So we can really optimize around a number of factors. And then we add to that this idea of a microgrid, right? So our microgrid is the ability to manage not just all of the loads in the home through that intelligent power panel, but also all of the sources of power that now can potentially power our house, right? So it's not just the grid anymore. Now we have solar, battery, generator, even cogen. And so what our system does is it takes all of these inputs as well as all of your loads, and then it optimizes the system. And we talk about the value of that being around what we call the 3 E's that motivate consumers to adopt energy solutions. And those 3 E's are energy resiliency or energy security, which is really keeping the lights on, economics, right, as prices of batteries and solar drop and people go to more all electric homes, and the way that we're charged for electricity changes from a flat fee to based on when we use our electricity. So there's the economic component as a second E. And then the third, obviously, is environmental stewardship or environmental sustainability, which is important to some portion of the population as well.
So when an integrator is out there talking to a customer and he's talking about intelligent power management like this, is there some sort of tactic or that he could use regarding those 3 E's? For example, this is going to save this amount of reduction of carbon into the atmosphere. This is going to save this amount of money with time of day pricing and those sorts of things on your bill. What does that conversation sound like?
Yeah. So a really nice thing for Savant integrators is that they're very familiar and used to Savant's user interface, right? We're really well known for a really intuitive user interface, and we've taken that and merged power in a really meaningful way, right? So this idea that a lot of the Savant system is based on scenes, right? If you're familiar with the Savant platform, you can do different kinds of scenes, and we've added energy into that. So you have different energy scenes that you can do. And so when you asked just now of how much savings there's going to be or how much carbon, all of that's built into that user experience. So you can use those tools to show how at one glance you can see what your energy savings are. You can see what your carbon impact is. But at sort of a first initial intro, I think that I would answer that question by saying it really seems to be coming down regionally. I think that a lot of integrators that I've talked to and worked with, often they're not initiating the conversation anymore. Maybe a year ago they were, or 2 years ago, but now often people are coming to them, whether it's the actual client or even the architects or MEP firms, that because people are just more and more aware of energy, be it because of climate issues or because you have rolling blackouts in California or what happened in Texas last February, right? It's on people's minds. Another component is just COVID. COVID has really sort of changed the landscape, right? Because we're not just living at home anymore. We're working from home. Our kids are going to school from home a lot of times. And that resiliency piece has become even more important for us. So, so as far as how to approach that conversation, it's we have a set of tools, and we have those 3 A's to talk about, but a lot of times it's meeting clients where they're at in terms of their interest, and regionally saying, well, if you're in California and you have rolling blackouts, here's how we can participate. Or if you're in certain states that have really high electricity prices and you have an all electric home, well that's going to resonate with that client.
Does the system do this on its own, or is this something that has to be programmed? For example, I've heard things like, well, let's just say you have a pool pump, and your pool pump, which uses a lot of power, and will the system intelligently know that this is the best time of day to run that pool pump? Or I've heard things like your refrigerator doesn't lose a degree of temperature over a certain amount of time. So why are you running the refrigerator in the middle of the night when nobody's stealing ice cream from the freezer and that sort of stuff? Does the system know to do that on its own, or is there some sort of program that an integrator has to get engaged with to be able to program the system to do that?
Yeah, good question. So as you know, Savant at its heart is a software company that is really good at control, can control everything in the home, and I think has done a good job of being able to do that intuitively. And we've done the same thing on energy. So we don't expect clients to be energy experts, right? And so when we set out to design this, we had to design a product that was really easy to use and didn't require that you had a PhD in energy to be able to do these things, right? So we have different modes that are baked in. So let's take the example of the pump. So if you're in eco mode, for example, then and you have a microgrid, and your microgrid, remember your microgrid is not just your storage and your solar, but it's also the ability to manage all the loads in the home as well, right? And so in eco mode, let's say most of the time, if you have a utility that has time of use pricing, then if between normally about 4 o'clock at night and 10 o'clock at night are when the highest prices are going to be for a residential area. Because that's when we all go home and we make dinner and we hang out. And so that's when the utility wants you to conserve. So they're going to charge you a lot of money. In the middle of the night, prices are really cheap, right? So so what will happen if you're in eco mode, at that time, that's when we will, the system will automatically use battery power instead of using the grid to lower your rates. It won't charge your electric vehicle unless it really needs to because of a preset minimum that was put in there. And like your example about the pool pump, right? That's not when it's going to use that. And then in the middle of the night, when prices are really cheap, that's when you can refill the battery or charge your car or whatnot, right? So the system not only is designed to do this automatically, but then the system learns as it goes of what your appliances are and what your system is. Another feature that I think people don't realize is that there's also this load health feature, right? So if we see that a compressor, say for an air conditioning system or there's a piece of equipment, it has a normal flow, ebb and flow that it uses for performance. We can look at that over time and signal up insights and notifications saying, hey, you might want to check on this particular piece of equipment. It doesn't seem to be performing as it did last month, right? So that's another helpful, not only for homeowners, but really for property managers as well.
And I think also important what you touched on there for the luxury clients, which is where a lot of integrators play. You're not necessarily asking a customer to sacrifice their lifestyle for this sort of energy independence. In other words, they don't have to walk around in hoodies because, boy, you're keeping the house too cold and we don't want to run that energy, or gee, you're going to have to keep your refrigerator 2 degrees warmer because it's going to save you this amount. It really adapts to that lifestyle, and there's no sacrifice asked for the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably most apparent in a grid outage if you have a backup. Let's just say traditionally, let's say 5 years ago, a lot of people had the way they kept the lights on was with a backup generator. But often that backup generator wasn't sized big enough to cover the whole home, because in this space, the homes are really big. And so often they're sized to cover a portion of the home. And so when that generator is installed, they set up a separate critical load panel. They decide what are the most critical loads. They hardwire those in. And when the grid goes down, the generator turns on automatically, and only those loads are powered, right? And that seems pretty archaic given how much investment are in the homes in this space, right? And so it doesn't matter if it's winter or summer or night or day, you're stuck with whatever those hardwired loads are. And with our system, what happens is you have access to every load in the house. So if you're down in the kitchen making dinner and you want access to all of those loads, and then you go upstairs and you're heading to bed, well, those are, you want to be able to use those sockets and those outlets and lighting where you are in the home. And so this is part of this is what really distinguishes Savant Power from pretty much anything else on the market, is that we're not just another solar battery solution, but really is a true microgrid in the true sense of the word grid.
So about 40% of low voltage integrators have line voltage licenses and electricians, but the other 60% actually partner with somebody. Where does this fit in for both that integrator who does have the electrical license and for the one who doesn't and is really relying on partnerships?
Yeah, this is a key point. This comes up again and again, and something that we spend a lot of time thinking about from the get-go. So first off, when we're designing the product, we have licensed electricians on staff to help us design this to make sure that it is truly a system that resonates with electricians. And what I mean by that is that it's intuitive to them, right? And that's what we really sought to do. And then on the second part, we've developed training so that not only are we training electricians, so again, we designed it to be in line with what they're used to. So for example, in our intelligent power panel, we don't have a proprietary panel that they have to learn a whole new way of wiring. Rather, we've made a companion to a breaker that plugs into any standard electrical panel, just like a breaker does, right? So it's super intuitive. And then we've created a really simple training program that actually our electricians have created, so that any electrician out there can come in, watch a short video, talk with an electrician, and be certified in installing our panels and our microgrids. And so for the integrators who have electricians on staff, right away, great, let's get you trained and certified and you're good to go. Integrators who don't have electricians on staff, we are making a concerted effort to partner certified electricians with integrators. Probably what's most common though is that we'll have an integrator come to us saying, hey, I have this project, the GC's electrician is so-and-so, can we get them trained? And right away, we bring them in, train them up, and they're certified to go forth and install. On the flip side of it, the other place that I think is important to note that I think helps integrators is on the front end of new construction with MEP firms and architects. So often they're designing these systems in on the front end. And so we're doing a lot to educate and train them so that they have the knowledge to bring to the table, so that the integrators can really have that expertise on the front end and have the electrician training on at the installation time.
I like that too, because it gets it early in the construction process, and they don't have to come in late and then introduce this concept to the architect. So, there's so many different things. Integrators are jacks of all trades. They're doing all these different products, and we have always new ones coming in. Right now, the LED lighting revolution is becoming a big thing for integrators to do fixtures, wellness, indoor air quality. These are all areas right now that are potential growth areas for integrators. Why is this intelligent power load, intelligent energy management a key area of growth for integrators, you think?
Oh, how long do you have? I mean, so yes, it's a key area for integrators. I think it's a key area across the board. I mean, if you haven't seen sort of the interesting growth in the energy sector, you haven't been paying attention, right? I mean, everybody, whether it's electric cars, solar panels, and although all of these batteries, battery backup, although all of these technologies are dropping in cost, it really is the CDM market that are the adopters of these technologies, right? Your Tesla car chargers, your solar panels, and some sort of storage and backup. And so you have a demand from this group of consumers to want not only sort of the bells and whistles to be sort of in the know on energy, but there's a real need, right? We've never had, but the number of grid outages in this country are increasing and their duration is increasing, right? And so there's a real need to be able to offer that sort of security to consumers. If I built a 10,000 square foot home and I have all of this equipment in it, I have security, I need to make sure that all of this is going to stay on when the grid goes out. So I think it really is, and the owner of the company, Bob Madonna, always says this, and I completely agree that it is the third leg of the smart home, is that power story.
I think you make a good point there, because on the surface, I think if you looked at it, people would think, well, utilities wouldn't want you to save energy because then they can charge more and that puts more money in their pocket. Why would they want their customers to reduce their costs? But what the situation is we're working off an almost 19th century power grid out there, and the utilities, you mentioned the rolling blackouts and these sorts of situations. They want this sort of technology to be introduced to their customer base versus fighting it, correct?
Absolutely. So there's a term in the utility space called beneficial electrification, right? And so this idea that and a lot of my work in my research in the academic world is around the grid and utilities, is that utilities have worked the same way since Thomas Edison started his first power plant in New York City many years ago, which is that we all use as much power as we want anytime we want, and that the utility ramps up and down generation to meet that demand. And now with aging infrastructure and climate change and power outages, what utilities really are doing, and it impacts every home and business, is that they want to be able to manage demand, right? So that electric car chargers are such that they're an asset, right? They're super sort of the poster child, the beneficial electrician, is that we can manage when that car is charged or filled up, and that helps them smooth out the curve of the grid of the demand versus the generation, especially as there's more solar generation into the grid too. So that's another piece of it. So yeah, I see this, it's a win-win, right? So the solutions the idea of smart homes and managing demand in a smart way, it's a win for consumers, it's a win for the utility, and it's a win for the environment ultimately too. So you don't often get those sort of equations.
Yeah. And I see the clear synergy of combining the smart home control with the intelligent grid. But do you think that this is going to lead to where you might see integrators and or electricians packaging this with generators, with solar, with wind turbines, with bringing kind of a complete solution, or is that kind of out of bounds and that's just another skill set?
That's a good question. I think that one of the places that Savant Power can really be an asset to integrators is that we know this, and so you don't have to. So you can utilize sort of our expertise and our platform of solutions to bring the right solution to your your client, right? So if you want to come to us and buy a full microgrid, well, that's going to include, for that, we can do a complete package. We can do solar, we can do the storage piece, we can do the automated control of all of the loads. And then our entire microgrid has a feed input for a generator. We'll even recommend, here's the generator to buy, and then we'll tell your electrician how to connect the whole system together, right? So that's the complete solution. But if you don't want to, it's almost like a smorgasbord. If you don't want the solar, or if you don't want the generator, that's fine too. So you can take it in individual components or as a whole package set. And so I think, I mean, to me, I admittedly, I haven't been in the CDS space a long time in that space, but from what I do know, talking to integrators, that they are really pleased when they have more that they can offer to their clients, right? And this is a big one, right? Because it's a little bit intimidating because it's new and it's high voltage. But the nice thing is being part of, and it's one of the really nice things about really being part of the Savant family is we've got your back. Like, we got this covered, and you know Savant well, and we've integrated the two.
All right, last question. Do you foresee that this is going to draw electricians who maybe previously have not been involved in smart home control systems of the low voltage end into the smart home? You see that the Savant Power and its high voltage capabilities bringing those electricians and say, you know what, we want to bring the whole kit and caboodle to our customers. Let us start doing some of these control systems too.
Yeah, let's see if I can answer that intelligently, because I don't know enough about, I think, that space in getting into sort of the professional install. However, what I can say is that and I've said this a couple of times, but with the costs of storage and solar dropping, and with more and more people getting into this space, and even more homeowners investing in things like solar at every price bracket there is, I think that you're going to see a movement for electricians to try to bring some smarts, but also some of this resiliency energy piece into sort of the more mid and lower markets that haven't historically been there, right? So I think that, it's an opportunity to bring solutions to just a wider spectrum of the entire population.
All right, a lot going on in this space, and I really appreciate you spending the time with CE Pro today. Thank you.
Good talking with you.